Hi, and welcome to TTELT, Teaching Tips for English Language Teachers, a program of educators worldwide. I'm your host today, Melanie Gobert.
Hello, everyone. This is Melanie Gobert, your host for today's podcast of TTELT, Teaching Tips for English Language Teachers, a program of educators worldwide. Joining us today is David Bozetarnik from the Higher Colleges of Technology in the United Arab Emirates. David is going to be talking to us about virtual reality at schools, at colleges, at universities. Welcome, David.
Hi there. Good morning. How are you doing today, Melanie?
Everything is good.
All right. So I'm interested in virtual reality. At the moment, I'm not teaching with it, but I've been learning about it for about the last 4.5 years. I figure that, there are people in different schools, colleges, universities that are working on it. So one thing that I can do as an English educator is to learn about it, so that if the day comes when we are asked to teach with it, then they'll be informed. And that's the interesting thing. You don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to be a hardcore gamer to learn about virtual reality. I teach English, but I would love to be able to have the chance to teach with it. So unless or until that day comes, I'm learning about it and sharing what I learn with colleagues at different campuses on their system, as well as presenting, for example, at TESOL Arabia. I think in the future you'll start seeing more of that, and so trying to get out the word.
Okay, well, can you tell us exactly what is virtual reality? Is this what Mark Zuckerberg is talking about when he talks about the metaverse?
Well, what Mark talks about with the metaverse, it's the sort of where they this is my opinion, this is where they see themselves as being in the future, where it would be a combination of virtual reality, augmented reality, whether you're using a headset, a computer, or like Pokemon Go type of application on your phone, where everything would be sort of seamlessly working together, which has not happened yet. That there's virtual reality, there's parts of this metaverse, but it is by no means a metaverse in place. But my interest is particularly in virtual reality and how that works, whether you have a headset or you're just using your computer or laptop. There's something to learn, because it's already being used at the enterprise level. Businesses, corporations, anything from healthcare to job interviewing to onboarding to upskilling, the oil, natural, and gas industry. Even here in the UAE, multiple private and government organizations are using it at different levels. And so I started to think, well, if our graduates are going to be going into that sort of technologically sophisticated field, whether you're in higher education or you're in kindergarten to 12, we need to start getting our students familiar with and proficient with virtual reality, whether it be they use it for a project that they have to work on, or they develop their own applications and they go into the private sector and as a business person. So there's applications for it already in the real world, in the business world. So we educators, we need to help prepare future graduates to be able to enter that world. But the good news is that you don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to know how to write an application for virtual reality. Like I said, I teach English, and so by starting the conversation, even by getting people to use it for gaming, you're getting them familiar with the hardware, with the uses. You start sort of the creative juices flowing, and if they're playing a game one day, maybe the next day they're thinking, wow, I might be able to use that in my field, in my department, for with students. It could be something like an engineering lab. It could be soft skills like speaking lessons, speaking activities. It could be health and health and fitness. Use the gaming aspect of virtual reality headsets to encourage students to get more fit. So there's a lot of possibilities for virtual reality, and there's a lot of possibilities for educators who maybe aren't into IT. And I like educational technology, but I'm not a programmer. But I like to think that I have ideas of how it can be used, and maybe one of my colleagues at some point, or somebody from a TESOL conference, will be able to go home, think about it, buy their own headset, try it out, and then bring it in and show one of their colleagues, and that way get a conversation started, so that if the day comes when somebody is told you will be using this next year, next semester, before we can start working with students in whatever year, whether it's 8th grade or sophomore year of college, teachers need to be familiar with it. So even if all you do is learn how to play games on it, you're going to be ahead of a fair number of other colleagues that you're working with. That was what happened when we started using iPads. I had already had an iPad. I had used it recreationally, as I used to say, but that was more than many other people at the time. So you don't have to be professionally capable of using it to teach. Even just using it for gaming or for health and fitness type of applications, and you'll be ready for the day comes when you are asked for ideas, or how could we use this, or to implement a pilot project, for example. So
And
yeah.
Sorry, how have you tried to promote virtual reality both inside and outside your organization?
Okay, well, first I started by just doing games and activities at my desk during lunch break. It'd be, oh, there's David on his headset again. But slowly a few people try it out and got interested, and that's how it starts. You get people to try it on, get sets on heads, as it were. It's like trying to explain scuba diving without ever going in the water. You can't really conceptualize until you experience it. So once you get them to experience it, it opens up a whole new world that you weren't thinking about. So that led to doing informal PD sessions, attending myself virtual reality PD sessions outside of work to learn how things work. Presenting at TESOL, for example, and trying to communicate that interest and get a conversation started. Like I said, when people go back home to their school or their college, because, like I said, VR is already out there in the professional world. So, we should get them started, and school age is the best time to get started. People who are
Sorry. So what do you see as the potential for virtual reality in education? It's already out there in the business. What's the potential for education?
Well, it can be anything from faculty and staff using it for meetings. in avoiding the Zoom fatigue, which is an actual thing. For example, engineering labs or health science classes. For example, being able to stand inside the human heart and to see the white blood cells, the red blood cells, the heart pumping, and not just seeing a picture of it or in a textbook or even on a website, of being in it and experiencing it that you wouldn't be able to do. And that's where VR really shines. There's an acronym called DICE, where VR comes in handy compared to, say, a more traditional format. It's called, let's see, DICE. Dangerous, impossible, counterproductive, and expensive.
Mhm.
So there's all these areas, for example, oil and gas or chemistry class, where in real life it might be dangerous to mix certain chemicals together, but you can do that in VR with no problem. Things that are impossible. Well, you can't really go to ancient Rome for a history class, but you can in virtual reality. And expensive, sometimes doing a chemistry lab, biology setup, health science lesson can be expensive depending on what equipment you've got. And so being able to set it up multiple times, with different users with the same headset, can be a money saver, because there's always going to be people who ask, well, what's the return on investment? Well, one of the returns is that, you can do things that would be more expensive to do in real life, whereas virtual reality allows you to do that.
Okay,
And just,
thank you. Do you have anything else? Any concluding words?
no, just that, again, you don't have to be a computer programmer to get into virtual reality. Get a headset, learn how to use it, play with it, take it to work. Somebody is going to say, hey, what's that? And then you show them. And that's how it starts. It won't happen overnight. No change with EdTech ever does. But you get a conversation started. You get people interested, and sooner or later, they're going to come back to you and ask you, what is that?
Okay, David, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
TTELT, Teaching Tips for English Language Teachers, a program brought to you by educators worldwide. This has been your host, Melanie Gobert. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Share with us how you are using these tips. Leave us a comment or voice message on social media or at ttelt.org. Thanks for joining this episode of TTELT, brought to you by educators worldwide. Follow, like, and subscribe to TTELT on your social media, and try a new teaching tip today.